Welcome into another Ask Anything mailbag. That's right, you can ask anything. Anything goes on this mailbag. We've got a lot of burning questions to get into as the Dolphins get ready to take on the Washington Commanders in Week 13 of the National Football League. The Dolphins looking to go to 9-3 on the season, which would be really, really good, especially when you consider they have a comfortable, and I don't say comfortable, they have a lead in the AFC East at 2.5 games right now. Everybody's looking up at the Dolphins like this, looking up. Okay, we get it, Jake. Let's get into the mailbag. We've got great questions coming in already, and we start with one of the realest of the real, the one and only, Sherry May. Shout out to Sherry May. She is a legend here on Dolphins Today. Be like Sherry May in life, folks. Question is Achane being saved for the postseason? What's the story? Great question, because as you look at the timeline with Devon Anan, obviously the injury after the win over the Giants was unfortunate. You put him on IR, and there was nothing structurally wrong. He didn't need surgery. It was just, I don't want to say totally out of caution, but you thought, okay, it time's up with the Dolphins bye week. There's a chance to really make sure everything is 100% good to go before you rush him back. Also, it's at a position of running back where there is some depth. You have Jeff Wilson. Prior to that, you had Savon Ahmed. He's now on IR, and so on and so forth. You get the point. Chris Brooks, same thing. He's now on IR too. But with that said, when Achane came back in that game against the Raiders, he only carried the ball one time. And when he was brought down, there was something that didn't feel right, and so he was taken out of that game. Then combined with the short turnaround to play the Jets on Black Friday, it just didn't lend itself, the timeline that is, to be taken out of a game on Sunday and then try and play again on Friday. So I don't think the Dolphins are saving him for anything per se. I just don't think that was the right setting to be taken out of a game and then try to play on a short week with a lack of rest and time to get better from that knee injury. So my guess is the Dolphins know exactly what they're doing with Achane and that they're keeping the long-term plan in play here so that he can help the Dolphins down the stretch as one of the most electrifying running backs in the National Football League. And with that rest, Devon Achane and Teron Armstead were both guys that did not practice this week leading up for the Dolphins. But remember, Devon Achane kind of burst onto the scene as a rookie this year out of Texas A&M. The stats are impressive. 461 yards on just 39 carries. Never forget that game against the Denver Broncos where he looked like a human Madden player, a video game character, running circles around the Broncos, and I can't wait to see him back at full strength in the near future. Next question coming in from Garrett Downtown. How about that, Garrett Downtown? The question's from downtown. What's the toughest game remaining for the Dolphins? Very good question. The way the schedule kind of stacks up, you've got 3 games, I'll say it, 3 games the Dolphins should be pretty heavily favored, and then 3 games that are going to be pretty tough. So the games are going to be heavily favored. Obviously, the Commanders on Sunday. Then you got Monday Night Football against a Titans team that has struggled. And then you got the Jets again. Although, crazy news. And look at that. We got the remaining schedule popping right up. I got it memorized. I promise I do. But this is great. Then you got the Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore, and Buffalo. Those last 3 games are going to be really tough. I'm going to say Baltimore is going to be the toughest because it's the one that's on the road. And Baltimore has shown how good of a team they are at home. And all things considered, I know they just lost Mark Andrews for the season, but they're a little bit more healthy than some of those other teams. Cowboys, you could also make the case for that being the toughest game left, but the Dolphins have been awesome at home this year. And I think that Cowboys defense might be susceptible to the Dolphins offense scoring some points. So I'll go at Baltimore as the toughest game remaining for the Miami Dolphins in the regular season. But very good question because it's so crazy. There's 3 very winnable games. They're all winnable, but you know what I'm saying. Games that the Dolphins will be favored in, and then 3 really tough games to close out the season, beginning with that game against the Cowboys, followed by the Ravens on the road, and then at home against the Buffalo Bills to close out the the regular season. But what say you? I gave you my take. What say you? Let me know in the comments. What do you think the toughest remaining game is for the Miami Dolphins in the 2023 campaign? Chef Zhu, my main man, with a great comment here. Great question, I should say. Out of AVG, that's Andrew Van Ginkel, a.k.a. Young Thor, or Big O, that being Emmanuel Ogbah, who do you feel will be ready to step in for Jaylen Phillips? And this is a great discussion that I don't think has a wrong answer, but I have a very strong opinion on it, and that is Andrew Van Ginkel can be the guy. He's shown how versatile he is as an outside linebacker, edge rusher, and so on and so forth. Early in the season, we saw Andrew Van Ginkel play quite a bit for Jaylen Phillips, and I keep going back to Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator that loves playmakers. He loves guys that can do a multitude of things. We've seen it with Kader Kohou, how he's been able to fit him into some different spots. We've seen it with Jalen Ramsey, and obviously those guys are both in the secondary. But you look up front, Andrew Van Ginkel, I think, is a little bit more versatile than Emmanuel Ogbah. Now, on third and long situations, I think Emmanuel Ogbah is a great option as a pass rusher. But on the meat and potato downs, first and second down, I think we're going to see Andrew Van Ginkel a lot. And then maybe if it's third and long, you bring in Emmanuel Ogbah. But Andrew Van Ginkel, I really believe, is going to be the guy that steps in as the main replacement for Jaylen Phillips. However, it'll be interesting and certainly something I have my eye on as the Dolphins continue with their season, starting with that game against the Commanders. Couple more questions to get to on this Ask Anything mailbag. Brad Croskery asks, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers returning? That is insane. I know that announcement was made earlier this week. Earlier today, I should say, several different big-name beat writers and people that cover the NFL confirming it. Aaron Rodgers having his 21-day window to return activated, and we just showed you the Dolphins' upcoming schedule, but crazy. It would be insane if Aaron Rodgers played in that game against the Miami Dolphins in 2 weeks, but the way he's been approaching this rehab and apparently had this state-of-the-art, never been done before, crazy surgery to repair the Achilles, and he just seems to be trending closer and closer to being able to play. Anything's possible. Maybe it really will happen, and we'll see Aaron Rodgers play against the Dolphins. But I think more realistically would be the following week, because that'd be 3 weeks from now. And obviously, since he had that 21-day window opened and activated to return, it has to be within at least 3 weeks. Otherwise, then the Jets don't have the ability to bring him to the 53-man roster, which I don't think that would be in anyone's interest for the Jets and their organization. So I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later, and that is crazy to think about. I just hope, because you never wish injury on anybody, I just hope that he didn't try to be in the center of the news as this miraculous recovery and put himself at even more injury risk by coming back too soon. But only him and his doctors can make that decision. All we can do is talk about the news, and the news is Aaron Rodgers officially back practicing with the New York Jets, which is crazy considering 3 months ago he tore that Achilles. Now, before we go any further, I got to give a huge thank you and sincere salute to a brand new sponsor here on Dolphins Today, and that is a Factor. Listen up, I got to tell you all about Factor because, guys, the holiday season is here. It's not even approaching. It is here. So you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days, and I've got great news because Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, they can help. They can help you fuel up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, and ready-to-eat meals delivered. Let me say that again. Delivered straight to your door so you'll save time, you'll eat well, and you'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos, because we know there are a lot of those. So if you're too busy with holiday plans to cook, not to worry. And you want to make sure you're eating well, Well, good news with Factor. You skip the extra trip to the grocery store. You skip the chopping, the meal prepping, and the cleaning up too. It's a win-win-win-win-win. While you're still getting all the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and relax. It only takes 2 minutes. So head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. That is code FinsChat50. Let me spell it out for you just in case you stopped listening. PHINSCHAT 50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and get 50% off. We'll also put that link in the description of today's video. You're welcome. Healthy meals, Factor, and that is the place to be. All right, it's in the chat, so let's get it going with a few more questions. Joseph Harrelson asks, why do you think Hill is an MVP candidate? Do MVP candidates drop touchdown passes? Whoa, Joseph, we're having a good time. The vibes are high. And then you just come in there with that jab, cross, jab, cross. All right, I'll calm down. I calmed down a little bit. I don't think Hill's dropping a lot of touchdown passes. I think maybe you're referring to one in the game on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles, but look at the numbers there, Joseph. I mean, he's on pace to be the first receiver ever to have 2,000 yards receiving. He leads the National Football League in touchdowns. He has one of the best averages per catch. He's a nightmare for defenses. Ask anybody with a brain, and they will tell you Tyreek Hill is among the most electric players in the National Football League any way you slice it. So, is he a receiver that has a perfect catch radius and catches 100% of balls? No, I don't think any receiver has ever not dropped a pass. And maybe I am getting a little sensitive, but my goodness, I think he's an MVP candidate in every definition of the word. He's one of, if not the most electric players in the National Football League. He's on pace for over 2,000 yards, and he leads the NFL in reception touchdowns. So I think that checks a lot of the boxes worthy for MVP discussion. That's what I'll say. I'll leave it with that. All right, another question here. D-Lo Fire says, can the Dolphins get the number 1 seed still? Absolutely, they can still get the number 1 seed because they were actually in position, which is crazy. They were in position as the number 1 team in the AFC after they won on Black Friday, but then Sunday happened and all the teams that they were kind of vying for position with also won. So we got it on the screen for you. The Ravens are right now the number 1 outright seed at 9-3, but the Dolphins are not far behind. And there's a head-to-head matchup coming with the Ravens later in the season, so that would obviously be a great way to get ahead of the Ravens. You beat them, they lose. The Jags are a team to watch at 8-3, as are the Chiefs. And remember, with the format, only one team gets a bye. That's that number 1 seed. So given the Dolphins' remaining schedule, combined with some potential head-to-head opportunities, we really got to root for Kansas City to lose because obviously Kansas City has the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Dolphins. And as for the Jags, I don't expect them to maintain the pace that they're on. So with that said, I think it's between the Chiefs, Dolphins, and Ravens for that number 1 seed and that first-round bye. Let me know what you think and be real with me. Do you think the Dolphins could get the number 1 seed? Let me know in the chat. It's real simple. Type yes or no. I think it's a yes. They absolutely could get the number 1 seed. Now, they have to play really good, and they have to beat some tough teams, but that's what number 1 seeds do. Next question. Henry T. Hi, Henry. Bye, Henry. That's from Rookie of the Year, if anyone didn't know. But Henry T., here we go. Saw a new mock-out. What position will the Dolphins target next year? Yeah, you know what? That's crazy. That's actually not that crazy. But teams that are bad, they talk about mock drafts. Teams that are good, they talk about the playoff picture. What have we been talking about the last couple of weeks on Dolphins Today? The playoff picture, because the Dolphins are a good team. But that said, the draft is obviously an important date for just about every team. So as I look where the Dolphins' position of need are, when you consider how many injuries the offensive line has undergone, I would start there. There's always, you can never go wrong drafting quality offensive linemen because that's a position where guys battle so many injuries. I love the thought of drafting an offensive lineman. Defensively, right now, with everybody healthy, and that wasn't the case early in the season, but with a healthy secondary, I think the secondary is the strength of this defense. And so I would never hate the idea of drafting either a linebacker or a pass rusher because pass rushers have that ability to impact a game and not let the opposing quarterback get comfortable. That's the best way to stop some of these electric quarterbacks in the National Football League. So I'll say O-line, D-line / linebackers. So that would be, and again, I haven't taken a real deep dive at this yet because the Dolphins have been winning and put themselves in position to maybe even get a number 1 seed. So the mock drafts can't wait. But off the cusp, I'll say offensive line, defensive line, and linebackers. All right. As always, we remind you to subscribe to Dolphins Today because if you like what you saw, we do this every single day. Not the mailbag, you know what I mean. We do daily Dolphins videos. We do watch parties. We do live shows. And we have a ball doing it. So subscribe to the channel. And when breaking news happens, we've got you covered. We do shorts. We do on-demand videos. We do live shows. We do it all on Dolphins Today. So subscribe to that channel. Hit that sub button and join our Dolphins community. Nothing but love for the aqua and orange. All right, couple more questions from CC Top. Vic Fangio has made this team a legit contender, in my opinion. No question there, but I will say ditto. Preach, RT, retweet, whatever you want to say. That's a great point from CC there. Vic Fangio is one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, defensive coordinator in the National Football League. That's what got him the head coaching job in Denver. I know it didn't exactly work out there, but defensively, this guy knows his ish. A brilliant X's and O's mind. He puts his players in positions to be successful, and we've seen that trend from the Dolphins defense just get better and better every single game. In fact, in weeks 5 through 12, the Dolphins have the top-rated defense. So you know they're getting better and better each and every week. Next question from Nick Humble. Mr. Humble, who versus the Dolphins would be a great AFC championship game? I say Ravens. Yes, I like that off the cusp. Absolutely. Ravens. We saw Dolphins Chiefs earlier this season in Germany. That one comes to mind because you got Patrick Mahomes versus Tua Tagovailoa, a really good Chiefs defense against a really good Dolphins defense. And obviously it was a one-score game in Germany. So that's a thought. And I think we'll know how good of a game Dolphins-Ravens will be when the Dolphins play the Ravens later in this season in the second to last season or the second to last week of the season of this year's season. So that said, I think that's a good option. And I don't know if the AFC North is going to cannibalize itself or if somebody's just going to emerge from that division because you got the Ravens, you got the Steelers, you got the Browns, and I know Joe Burrow is hurt, so I got to unfortunately count Cincinnati out. But those are 3 legitimate contenders, and it's just a matter of who can withstand the challenge of such a long season in that tough division and be ready to play their best ball come playoff time. But I've got my eye on that as well. Now from Jamie, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Sapoznikov. I'll go with Sapoznikov. Dolphins, to be honest, I don't see Williams as the center past this year. What center in the draft free agent market should we go after? Jamie, that breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart because Conor Williams has been playing so well. And there are some good players, of course, to go after in the draft, which we'll evaluate. But there are also some really good free agents. So free agency could be an option for the Dolphins moving forward. But I think Conor Williams has done so well this season. He's had a couple of bad snaps, sure. But I would say Conor Williams is the guy to stick with. I mean, don't do my guy Conor Williams like that. You look at his Pro Football Focus grades, and I know that's not the end-all, be-all, but he has been as good or better than just about every single center in the National Football League. He's been consistent, and of course he's had some bad snaps, sure. But Conor Williams, I think, is a guy that the Dolphins will look to shore up because he'll be a free agent after this season, but I expect him to stay with the Aqua and Orange based on his production this year. Fins fan for life. I'm not worried about Buffalo, even if we see them in the playoffs. I like it. I know they had our number earlier this season, but a lot has changed since then. And also, that was in Buffalo. The next time the Dolphins play Buffalo will be, of course, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And yes, I don't necessarily fear Buffalo either, but you do want to give them their due. They played Philadelphia really tough on the road and in a lot of ways had that game won or close to it, and it took a 55-plus yard field goal in the rain for Philadelphia to extend that game into overtime and then eventually win it. So I don't want to count Buffalo out. You still respect them, but I completely agree. I don't fear them, and I think this is a totally different Dolphins team than when they played the Bills earlier this season. All right. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. As always, reminder, you can follow me on Twitter or X if you prefer to call it X. I'm at Jake_Riepma. It's on the lower third right there. So check it out. I'm always tweeting out Dolphins info, Dolphins highlights, and all that good stuff as well. That'll do it for this mailbag, and appreciate, as always, everybody tuning in to Dolphins Today.